Hi guys, it's Dom again with another tip for developers to help become awesome at sharing their thoughts and ideas with other people. Today we're going to look at the concept of mentoring and how do you get started and how do you get the best out of that for both you and the person that you're mentoring. Now when you think about mentoring, you might think about taking on a junior developer and sort of showing them the ropes, introducing them into the company. But it also could be something like a pair programming exercise where you have more experience than the other person. And so what I've come up with is 5 tips that you can use today to help that experience be beneficial not only to them, but also to you. So first things first, when you're mentoring or you're teaching, you want to think about what is your end goal. What is the one thing that you hope that they come away with? And it's really, really easy to sort of share all the knowledge that you have. And quite frankly, that is way too much. So you want to be very, very clear and focus on the thing that you want them to learn or the skill that you want to pass on. Now, the second thing, and this is almost even more important than knowing what skill, it's really, really important to build rapport. And the reason why is this: when you're sharing knowledge, the other person is entrusting their mind, their brain in your hands with the hope that by the end of it, they will come away knowing a little bit more than before. And that is both very scary and very vulnerable. So you want to try and smooth that process out before. So really get to understand the developer, try and understand a little bit more of what they're thinking, how they're approaching it, what's their background. Things that you can then latch onto and make references is to bring them along on board. Now, the third thing is, while you're working with it, I kind of like to follow a rule, the 2-to-1 rule. And that basically says that for every 2 things you do, you try and get the other person to do 1 thing back. So if you're doing test-driven development, for example, you would write 2 functions and get the other person to write 1. This way, you are still sharing their knowledge, you're still sharing your knowledge, you're still checking for their understanding, but you're also inviting them to be a part of the process. And you're also allowing them to teach you as well. So you might find that when you're explaining something, you haven't explained it properly or it's a little too abstract. And by using this sort of 2-to-1 thing, you can get a better clarity of that and adjust sort of on the fly. Now, the fourth thing is, and this is really, really critical, is not just to show interest, it's to be interested. Be genuinely interested in the progress of the person that you're mentoring, that you're teaching. And what I mean is this: we all know, if you've been in a class, someone goes, explain something, and they go, have you all understood it? Any questions? That's it. But if they're genuinely interested, they'll ask you something back. They'll go, say what I've said in your own words. What might happen if I do X instead of Y? How might I develop this a little bit further? Because that means that 2 things. If they can answer you, A, they've listened, B, they've engaged, C, they've internalized it. And if they reflect it back and they're saying something different, you can go ahead and make adjustments. Now, the last thing is you want to follow up. Okay, nothing's worse than having a great mentoring session. You try and find that mentor and they've gone off because they're doing bigger and better things. Always take a moment. Doesn't have to be grandiose, but just take a moment to follow up. I would say within a week with the person and say, hey, I'm just checking up on that session we had. Was that useful? What did you learn? Is there anything else that I might need to work? And again, that's very vulnerable for you because you might find that it wasn't as good as you thought. But the key is you can use that information to build and iterate again. And that's really the point about learning. It's in teaching. It's not just about you just sharing knowledge. It's about how you're sharing that knowledge and how you can get better at sharing it. So the 5 steps, again, just to reiterate, they are building rapport. They are using the 2-to-1 rule, being focused with what you want to share, be interested, not just show interest, and follow up. Okay. If you have any more listener questions, please fill them out in the comments below. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe so you can get up-to-date information when I release my next video, and I will see you next time.